come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to the base hit. Justice has scored the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is gonna be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series for Reggie Jackson.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throws. There's a long drive. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the paddock. The Giants from the paddock. The Giants from the paddock.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them with my faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolis fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins.
Here's the pitch to Willie. There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. Gets it goodbye. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a chance. The Twins are gonna win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, are you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the program. I am Dan Scott. Very happy to have you with us on the show and hope that your day is off to a good start. Apologize for not being here the first couple of days of the week. If you were kind of following along with what was happening, had some major issues on Monday. You know, it's one thing to have a flat tire that throws you off kilter. That happens. That's what knocked me out of here on Monday morning. Monday night, we go to Short Fields to do the Coach Bob Ritchie show, and I come back out after the show, and the spare has gone flat. And I have obviously nothing to put on because the spare, and it's one of the little donut things, is on there. Apparently what happened, it had a slow leak. And as I tried to pull out, it kind of separated a little bit from the rim and broke the seal. God bless Rex Brown, Andrew Brown's dad off of the men's basketball team, who came to the rescue with an industrial jack, for lack of a better term, as well as a pair of different air compressors. And between that and a couple of cans of Fix-A-Flat, we were finally able to get that spare tire, the donut, up and functional again so I could get home after about an hour out in the cold rain. And this is getting him home after 10 o'clock when he's got to get up to catch a 7 a.m. flight the next morning. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate him. I told him personally, I acknowledged him on Facebook. I want to acknowledge him right now. So yesterday was spent out getting tires and then back over here for meetings. So we're back here today. Going to play a little bit of catch-up, and I got a good show. Got a bunch of stuff lined up. Got Dave Glenn, as always, to talk all things Atlantic Coast Conference coming up at 10:25. The Furman men are in Greensboro for a battle tonight with UNCG. Tied with Wofford for second in the league are the Spartans, and Furman just behind both of those, and everybody trailing ETSU, who is 7-0 in conference play right now. So this is a big game, obviously, for the Paladins. And going up against the Greensboro team that suddenly has decided to play some defense. They're allowing just under 62 points a game, and that has not been their mode of operation over the last few years. So it's going to be intriguing to see how this game plays out in the Coliseum tonight up in Greensboro. After the show, Tom Van Hoy and I will be taking off and heading up there for the call. Jordan Caskey is already up there with the basketball team, and he will be joining us at about 10:45 to help us preview that game a little more in depth. So we're looking forward to talking with Jordan as we go through the course of the day as well. Now, looking at what is shaking out inside the conference as we speak, we mentioned that ETSU is sitting there at 7-0 in the league, and they're 16-4 overall, followed by UNCG and Wofford, who are both 5-1 in the conference, both 14-5 overall, and then Furman at 5-2, a half game out of second place. So they'll be able to jump Greensboro by a half game with a win tonight in the Coliseum. A loss tonight, and obviously now you're falling a game and a half behind, and more importantly, 3 games behind ETSU in the loss column. You have to hope that somebody knocks off ETSU here relatively quickly, and Furman's able to maintain the conference record the way it is, and hope that you're still within one game, or you can get within one game in that loss column heading to the final game of the regular season. If it looks like ETSU is going to remain the team to beat, these two teams close out the regular season in Johnson City right before the conference tournament. Hopefully, it'll be for the regular season championship, but we will wait and see. Western Carolina, who comes to Timmons Arena on Saturday, is 4-3 in the league. They're 8-11 overall. Then Mercer and Samford are both 3-4. The Bears are 10-10. Samford 7-13. VMI and the Citadel 1-6. VMI is 6-12. Citadel is 6-13. And Chattanooga bringing up the rear. They are 0-7 in conference play and 6-14 overall. So tonight, as mentioned, you've got the 7 o'clock start with Furman at Greensboro. The other games in the league tonight, Samford on the road at Chattanooga. That's a 7 o'clock start, as is Mercer at ETSU and Wofford at VMI. So it's a busy Wednesday night in league play. In fact, the only game tomorrow on the kind of traditional day of play in the Southern Conference is Western Carolina playing not only out of conference, but out of division, playing NCAA Division II Southern Wesleyan. The Warriors of Coach Charles Winfrey will be taking the trek up to Cullowhee tomorrow night. But you got 4 games tonight. Kind of circle not only the Furman UNCG game, but circle Mercer and ETSU, because Mercer is fully capable of beating ETSU. That game, of course, in Johnson City, which I said this last year when it happened. I said it earlier, I guess last week it was brought up. The atmosphere of that game between the Paladins and the Mocs, or not the Mocs, but the Bucks, ETSU, in Johnson City last year, it's one of the best college basketball games and atmospheres I've been associated with. About 5,000 people, maybe a little more, packing Freedom Hall in Johnson City, and they were loud and they were rowdy, and it was an intense game back and forth. You may remember that game, John Davis III hitting that big 3 at the end of regulation to send it to overtime, and then the Bucks end up winning it in the extra 5 minutes. But it was one of the better atmospheres, one of the best atmospheres, actually, that I've ever been involved in college basketball. So Mercer is walking into that tonight up in Johnson City. You would figure that Samford would be able to get well against Chattanooga, but remember this, Chattanooga, although they're 0-7, they've been playing extremely good basketball since Furman beat them down in Chattanooga going back a couple of weeks. They have lost close games. They've lost back-to-back games in overtime, lost a close game again over the weekend. So maybe this is where Chattanooga gets off the schneid. And then Wofford and VMI, you figure Wofford will go into Lexington and take care of business there. But you never know. We'll see what happens. So that's a look at what's going on in the league besides the Furman and UNCG game tonight. When we get to the 10:45 segment, the final segment of the show, Jordan Caskey will join us live from Greensboro to help us prepare further for that game. And then, as I mentioned, Tom Van Hoy and I heading in that direction as soon as the show is over today. So we'll step aside for a break before we go out. A word about our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company, which primarily responsible for getting this show launched and keeping it launched, so to speak. Located in Cherrydale Plaza in Greenville, right down the road from campus here. They have fantastic food, great baked goods if you've got a sweet tooth going on, hot and cold beverages. The people are even better than the food. Stop by there, see Jeff Massey and Amber, and tell them thank you for what they've done for this program, and enjoy the great food and great atmosphere that is the Atlanta Bread Company. They are located, again, in Cherrydale Plaza, right down the road from campus here in Greenville. And as we go to commercial break, you will hear more about them in this set. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimmented cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives, and they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. Welcome back on a beautiful day here in the upstate of South Carolina. The proverbial sunshine and blue skies was quite chilly this morning as we got up and out walking the dogs and preparing to make our way over here. It's supposed to get up near 60 in the area today, and we're in that time of the year here where, as we have seen, it can be mid-60s one day and nosedive the next day. And Tracy and I, the administrative assistant for football downstairs in the lobby, were talking this morning. It's no wonder people stay sick this time of the year because the weather is just so unpredictable here in this area. But you know what? It could be a lot worse in a lot of different places, and I know where some of you are watching and listening from, it is worse in some of those places. So we do count our blessings without question. I want to tell you about Hall's Chop House, the Greenville Steakhouse located downtown. I was having a pretty extended conversation with Billy this morning, and it looks like next Tuesday is going to be the day that we're going to do the show live from Hall's. And he and I are going to meet probably later this week or the first part of next week to solidify the details. But we're going to be doing the show live from the restaurant. And I'm telling you, I can't wait. These folks are such great fans of and supporters of Furman. If you pay attention to their social media, you know, you're all the time seeing pictures of Furman coaches and other Furman folks who are there enjoying the great dinner, the steak, the Allen Brothers Prime Steaks out of Chicago. Fantastic supporters of this university and of the athletic programs, and why not? You got a lot to be excited about, a lot to be proud of right now. So does Hall's. The menu is fantastic. Again, starting with the steaks, the restaurant itself, plenty of meeting space. If you need someplace to have a corporate event or a birthday or anniversary party, they've got that. Open 7 nights a week, and for brunch on Sunday, it's Hall's Chop House located downtown, the Greenville Steakhouse. Be sure to tell them that you heard about them right here on the show. I want to go off the beaten path just a little bit. Coming up at 10:25, Dave Glenn will join us, and Jordan Caskey will be with us at 10:45 from Greensboro to help us further preview the Furman UNCG game tonight. But, you know, there are a lot of things going on. We're in the off week for the Super Bowl. That matchup coming up between the Eagles and Patriots, which is a rematch of Super Bowl 39, I believe. So, you know, we've got that, and we so many other things going on as well. But I want to spend just a few minutes talking about what's going on at Michigan State and going on with the sentencing of Dr. Larry Nassar. If you've been keeping up with this is just an incredibly awful, tragic story of a guy who has been convicted of sexually assaulting numerous athletes, whether they're at Michigan State or whether they have been at involved with USA Gymnastics. I mean, the victim count as far as statements being made during the sentencing phase of his trial yesterday was up to 190. 190 victims have come into that courtroom and confronted this guy and made statements in the sentencing phase. Now, on top of everything else, the NCAA has sent a letter of inquiry to Michigan State to formally open an investigation into how the university handled the case of Larry Nassar. Now, he was a practicing doctor at the university from 97 to 2016, as well as being the physician for the USA national gymnastics team. As I mentioned, he's currently being sentenced for sex crimes. He's already in prison for child pornography. So there's really no allegedly now where this guy is concerned. This is a sick, twisted individual who used his position of influence to, and I'm sure in many cases, irreparably harm numerous young women. And it's just disgusting and awful to even think about the depths of which this has gone. But the question I have is this an NCAA matter? And the reason I bring it up is because of what happened at Penn State with the Jerry Sandusky stuff. You remember what happened there. Jerry Sandusky was molesting young boys for years while associated with Penn State, either on staff or running a camp in which his office and everything operated out of the Penn State football facility. And you remember that trial. You remember in fact, it was all of that back in late 2011 that led me to reveal for the first time that I was sexually molested as a child, in hopes that it would help folks in the upstate. And I can't tell you the number of phone calls and texts and emails and everything else I received over the course of time after doing that. So all that was going on this time about 2011. The NCAA levied some just harsh penalties on Penn State over the Jerry Sandusky situation. Well, Penn State took the NCAA to court and said that the NCAA was overstepping its bounds because they are charged with enforcing the NCAA rule book when it comes to academic qualifications, when it comes to recruiting and eligibility and on-field play and all of those things. That's what they are charged with doing. And Penn State argued effectively that the NCAA overstepped its bounds, and the NCAA ended up having to retract most, if not all, of the sanctions they levied on that Penn State program. Well, now they are officially investigating Michigan State on how it has handled the case of Larry Nassar. And the question comes up, and I think rightfully so, is the NCAA overstepping its bounds again? And not that the NCAA shouldn't be outraged. The NCAA obviously should be outraged. We all should be outraged. But within the confines of their bylaws and constitution, and within the confines of that ridiculously thick rule book that they have, they are limited to what their powers are and what their reach is. And this is something that we'll bring up with Dave Glenn. Thankfully, Dave, we can go off of the beaten path with Dave as well because, he's an attorney and he'll have a lot to say about this, I'm sure. But just remembering that the NCAA lost in court in the Penn State scenario, it kind of makes me wonder why they're sticking their nose in here at Michigan State in the Larry Nassar situation. And again, they should be outraged. I applaud them for being outraged, but I just wonder if there's anything that actually they can do. And again, that'll be something that we'll talk to Dave Glenn about because as, in the Penn State situation, I mean, they hammered Penn State, hammered the Nittany Lions, if you remember, and then had to retract almost everything, if not everything. I just wonder if the situation wouldn't be the same here because this falls outside of what their jurisdiction actually is. Well, we'll talk to Dave about it when we have him on coming up here in just a few minutes. Bottom line is that this guy is going to go to jail for a long, long time, and you can't help but love the courage and the tenacity of every single one of those young women who are walking into that courtroom during the sentencing phase of his trial and facing him and making statements on their behalf that the jury can hear, that the judge can hear. They should feel empowered now. And for many of them, I'm sure it's incredibly difficult for them to be walking in there and facing a guy who, for lack of a better term, tortured them. If not physically, mentally, after whatever he did to them, that lives. Trust me, it lives, and it becomes a mental torture, if nothing else. I can't tell you how much respect I have for each and every one of those. And again, that victim count unbelievably is up, as I said, to 190 who have come forward to make statements. It's just incredible. We'll talk to Dave about it when we get him on here coming up after the break and see what he has to say. But we do need to step aside and come back here in just a moment. We'll talk to Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com and see what he's got on the agenda for us today. This is the Dan Scott Show, and we will return in just a moment.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Traveler's Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingles Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
All right, we are back. It is 10:25, and it's Wednesday. Good to have you with us. I'm Dan Scott. You are watching on Facebook Live or Twitter through Periscope, or, he said, on YouTube, streaming to all of those places simultaneously. And they also have us dialed up, we think, on the Campus FM 95.9. Good to have you with us wherever you are, and thank you for tuning in. We are going to go right to the celebrity guest line now and welcome in a guy who needs no introduction, but I'll do it anyway. He is the chief cook and bottle washer at ACCSports.com. He is the host of the David Glenn Show, which is syndicated throughout the state of North Carolina, airs noon to 3 every Monday through Friday. And for a lot closer to 20 years than 15 now, has been a guest on my show in every form that we have had the stupid thing. He is Dave Glenn, and joining us now. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Dan. Good to be with you as always.
Same here. I gave you the heads up, and that's what I love about our relationship. I really didn't even have to give you the heads up because you're always prepared about these things. But drawing on your law background and other facets of your vast wealth of weaponry you have in your arsenal, the Larry Nassar thing at Michigan State, I mean, just watching the number of victims, as I said earlier, which I think is now up to 190 who have come and talked, made statements in the sentencing phase of his trial. This is just an awful, tragic situation, and the NCAA is right to be outraged by it. But, Dave, what kind of jurisdiction, if any, does the NCAA have over Michigan State in this situation? And, again, correlating this back to what they did to Penn State in the Jerry Sandusky thing, and then the courts came in and said, no, you really overstepped your bounds there. What do you think about this situation?
Well, at a preliminary glance, I mean, right out of the gate, let me just agree with you about the outrageous nature of what happened. A lot of folks follow their instincts, follow their gut, follow the smell test, and say, wait a minute, how can the NCAA, which governs universities and colleges, simply allow Michigan State, along with USA Gymnastics, which is obviously outside their jurisdiction, sit idly by and allow such horrible things to happen? And I understand why people want solutions so desperately when, as you said, almost a couple hundred young women were violated by this doctor after Michigan State and USA Gymnastics, among others, just missed a lot of warning signs and flat out ignored some evidence that was brought to them. The challenge here, though, is whereas the emotional reaction, everybody needs to do everything that it can, is understandable. In the real world, there are matters like jurisdiction. And whether that's you or I as a neighbor or as a parent or as a school teacher or as a principal, or in this case, the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletics Association, the NCAA, in a case like Penn State, which involves something incredibly horrible and serious like child molestation by a former assistant football coach at that university. Eventually, the NCAA had to backtrack after attacking the Nittany Lions, essentially because they had to say, whereas this was horrible, this was a criminal justice matter, fundamentally. And the court systems are trained, and judges and prosecutors and defense attorneys are trained to deal with such things. And we at the NCAA are fundamentally not. We're not trained to deal with such things. We're not asked by our charter to deal with such things. We don't have the expertise to investigate and pursue and find the truth the way they do in the criminal justice context. And here, there's going to end up being a similar question, Dan. The NCAA recently decided that even though lots of horrible academic misdeeds happened at UNC, those misdeeds were not under the jurisdiction of the National Collegiate Athletics Association. Just as the NCAA had to back off in the Penn State case, they may be grandstanding here over Michigan State's role. They might be trying to play the PR game by threatening Michigan State, and now we know they have sent a letter of inquiry. But the bottom line is still going to remain that question: do you have jurisdiction here? I don't believe the NCAA does, and I'll be interested to see what kind of creative argument they might come up with to say that they do.
At its heart, knowing the loss they suffered in the courts with the Penn State situation, do you think this is just public relations to let everybody know that they are as outraged as anybody else? Or do you think, knowing what you know about the NCAA, that they have an intent on trying to actually see this through as a real investigation and penalizing Michigan State in some way?
Well, my educated guess that this is far more grandstanding and public relations than it is something with real merit. And the reason I say that is that the NCAA president, Mark Emmert, who at times has done good things, also has shown beyond the shadow of a doubt that he is willing to place PR over the truth of the matter, if you will. And the reason I say that is in the Penn State case, Mark Emmert was communicating to people, sort of the foot soldiers of the NCAA, those who are paid and trained to know the rules, investigate wrongdoing, visit these campuses, and prosecute, if you will, in the NCAA vernacular. And Mark Emmert, it was proven in the long run, was essentially saying, I'm paraphrasing here, in emails that they found to his own NCAA compliance people, I don't care what the rules are. We can't look powerless and toothless as Penn State was involved in something as bad as this. That's, anyone with a legal background would be outraged at reading or seeing something like that. People of authority are not supposed to say, I don't care what the rules are, because we have to win a public relations battle. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But in my eyes, that black cloud will always follow Mark Emmert around. He gave as a directive, let's get the Nittany Lions, and I don't care how far you have to bend, stretch, or lie about our rules to do it. That's outrageous coming from the president of the NCAA. And it's one more reason to be suspicious when the NCAA is trying to give the appearance of drawing a line in the sand here in the Michigan State case.
Yeah, I just found it very interesting when I saw the story that they had sent an official letter of inquiry, and just again, it's been 7 years now since the Jerry Sandusky thing was going on, and remembering and really having that whole scab pulled off that wound again, if you will, and recalling everything that happened there, knowing how badly they were trounced in the courts. Why would they be doing something like this? But I can see that aspect of it. I can see the PR aspect of it, a way of maybe trying to convince people that they're as outraged as everybody else, and they should be. Quite honestly, they should be.
I agree. And the good news here is the wrongdoers have been punished and are in the process of being punished. I mean, Jerry Sandusky has been in prison since all of that happened. Yep. Larry Nassar in the Michigan State case is in the process of going to prison for the rest of his life. Michigan State and Penn State had to deal with lawsuits left and right and lost tens of millions of dollars. So anybody out there who just wants the bad guys to get caught, whether that's the wrongdoer himself or the university or the USA Gymnastics that enabled it, they are dealing with consequences. In the case of the two men, they are dealing with a lifetime in prison. It's just a matter of whether the NCAA wants to once again go down this road where they're trying to give the appearance of, wanting to help catch the bad guys when, frankly, they're not great at what they are asked to do by their member institutions. Yeah. Throw championships, set amateurism rules, recruiting rules, etc. They're not great at those things. And every time they seem to go beyond their jurisdiction, they end up looking that much worse in the long run.
Well, one final thought on this, and then we'll move on to some things in the ACC. But one of our viewers, Drew Tibbs, just left a comment in the Facebook section basically saying that given what has come to light about Larry Nassar, not only do you have to admire all of these young ladies for coming forward in the sentencing phase and confronting him in open court, but you really have to admire how they were able to go out and compete at the highest level, gold medal level, while all this stuff was going on. How for whatever, or however they did it, able to compartmentalize it long enough to go out and become a world champion and a gold medalist.
No doubt about it. I'm a big fan of the Olympics. I tune in every 4 years. I watch the gymnastics. I watch the swimming, the track and field, you name it. And I think there's on the short list of sort of American international sports superheroes. We love our NFL, but the rest of the world doesn't care a whole lot about that stuff. The Olympics is truly the ultimate international stage. And those gymnasts, male and female, have been among the greatest representatives of our country on that stage.
Yep.
And I'm around long enough to, remember Nadia Comaneci, not from our country, but Mary Lou Retton and others, generation after generation, representing us in all of the right ways. And the more you learn about these details, the more amazing it is what they did as competitors in the spotlight and what they did as just positive, cheerful role models, wearing and living and breathing the red, white, and blue under any circumstances. What they did on and off the mat, if you will, was amazing. But under these circumstances, it just makes it that much more incredible.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Dave Glenn, ACCsports.com. And I suppose since that's the moniker under which you come on the show, we probably should talk a little bit of ACC sports. But that's what I love about it. Your insight into things like this, I think, is so valuable that our listeners and viewers need to hear it. And I tell you how long that we have been together. I knew what you were going to say. So
it's like an old married
Yeah.
couple, right?
Yeah,
You can
I'll
finish
start
each other's sentences
exactly.
sometimes.
I'll start it and you finish it, and off we'll go. So let's go to the ACC. How does a 70-year-old Mike Krzyzewski continue to reel in high-profile players? And I'm thinking most recently, of course, the Zion Williamson sweepstakes, which ended with him surprising a lot of people, perhaps, and committing to Duke. How does he continue to relate to the younger and the youngest generation?
Beyonce and Kobe. I'll elaborate. Coach K famously has on his phone a photo of him and Beyonce together. Coach K also has the personal recommendations of some of the greatest players in modern NBA history who didn't even play at Duke, but got to know Coach K during the USA basketball process, with Coach K, of course, being the head coach through 3 straight gold medals on that international stage. Kobe Bryant has said such things. I would have gone to Duke if I had gone to college. I'm glad I got to know Coach K. He's the man. LeBron James has said similar things as a straight from high school to the NBA guy, even more recently. When you are 70 years old, you do sometimes get questions. Hey, when's this guy going to retire? If I go there, will he really be my coach for the entirety of my college career?
Mm-hmm.
But Coach K sort of dodges that bullet, if you will, by when you're recruiting one and done guys, as long as you're there for 1 more year, they're not worried about, whether you're there for 4 or 5 more years. So Zion Williamson is fine with his assumed only 1 year in Durham. And the other part of it is Coach K's not your typical 70-year-old. He stays young in a lot of different ways. He uses emojis with his texts now, Dan. He even makes fun of himself in SportsCenter type commercials about how he communicates with his grandchildren. These guys still see a youthful energy in Coach K, even as a guy who's gone through 6 different surgeries over these last 2 calendar years. He has shown no signs of being near the finish line as the head coach at Duke, even though he has sort of passed the baton as the head coach of USA basketball. And when these young men see Coach K competing for and winning national titles and ACC titles, and then sending the next generation on to the NBA successfully, what's not to like about Duke? They like the Cameron Crazies. They like the Atlantic Coast Conference. They want to play for the GOAT, as many of them call Mike Krzyzewski. And I think, especially with the one and done guys, you don't have to worry about that question about whether you have 5 more years in you. They just want to know if you have 1 more year in you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it does make a difference. It's hard to go on the trail and recruit against a guy saying, well, if you go there for 4 or 5 years, he's not going to be there. If he's adjusted his recruiting style to bringing him one and dones, and he was so militantly opposed to that earlier, but now he has adapted, and whether you like him or don't like him, you have to respect him for the way he's able to adjust and continue to relate. On another note, you had a conversation with Seth Greenberg, and Seth Greenberg, his opinion is that North Carolina is not as good as its ranking. Do you agree with him?
For now, I do. I'll put it this way. Virginia and Duke are the two best teams in this league. And the reason I say that is the Blue Devils are the most talented in the ACC. And one by one, whether it's senior Grayson Allen or any of those prominent freshmen, one by one, they're earning Mike Krzyzewski's trust. Now, Duke might only be up to 4 guys. Marvin Bagley, Wendell Carter Jr., Gary Trent Jr. on the perimeter, and Grayson Allen, the senior. But with each passing week, if you can get to the point that you have the full trust in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 guys, you're way ahead of the field. At UVA, Tony Bennett has had for weeks, if not months, complete trust in his top 8 players. Offensively, defensively, in terms of their basketball IQ, in terms of their embracing their roles and being unselfish and playing that unique style. Tony Bennett and Mike Krzyzewski, in different ways, are on a level of their own. Roy Williams has Joel Berry, his senior point guard, and Luke May, one of the most improved players in the country, as his junior forward. After those 2 guys, it's a guessing game. And on one night, Pitt transfer Cam Johnson is the best player on the court. And on another night, like at Virginia Tech the other day, he's completely invisible, turning the ball over, not playing defense, and not hitting his 3-point shots. Kenny Williams is another up-and-down player for the Tar Heels. Theo Pinson has been an up-and-down player even as a senior for the Tar Heels. So it's not that Carolina can't get there, but it is late January, and Roy Williams has complete trust in only 2 guys. And you're not going to compete for or win championships if by the time March 1 rolls around, you still have only 2 guys who fit that description.
He is Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com. We didn't spend as much time on the league this time because of the bigger story that required his expertise. But, Dave, people want to know more in depth about what's going on in the Atlantic Coast Conference. How can they find out about it?
ACCSports.com continues to be our Grand Central station, Dan. We have a lot of audio there. We have a young man named Brian Geisinger who breaks down X&O style, analytics style, from every angle, football, and at this time of the year, especially basketball. It's all day, every day at the website. We still have our quarterly glossy magazines. We still have our biweekly newsletters. You can follow us on Twitter at ACC Sports or at David Glenn Show or both. But the place to start for all of it is right there at the website, ACCSports.com.
Hey, if you're not doing anything tonight, come on down to the Coliseum in Greensboro. Furman and UNCG play, and I'll make you the halftime guest, and we'll go to dinner afterwards.
Oh, I like the sounds of that. That's not too far for me. We do have a quadruple header of ACC basketball tonight, so I probably will be otherwise occupied.
Story of my life.
I appreciate the invitation, though.
All right, my friend.
Hey, give me some advance notice the next time. I don't know your full social calendar. If I have a little advance notice, I can plan ahead and make that happen one of these times.
Yeah, I'm not sure that what I have would qualify as a social calendar, but, that's another story for another time. Talk to you next week, buddy.
All right, bud. Root for the Philadelphia Eagles for me in the Super Bowl. But we can talk about that next week.
You got it. We'll definitely be doing that. See you.
All right, I'll see you.
That is Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com. When we come back, Jordan Caskey will join us. Final segment of the show. We will take a look at this game tonight in Greensboro that Tom Van Hoy and I will be calling. We'll do that and close it out in just a moment. Stay with us.
Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament, and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingles Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
All right, we are back. Good to have you with us here on the program. I'm Dan Scott. Thanks to Dave Glenn as well for spending some time with us as always. Easiest 15 to 20 minutes that I do every week, without question, and has been. And probably, well, not probably, the best 15 to 20 minutes, because the information gleaned from it, if we're talking outside of the bubble of Furman, it is just absolutely incredible. A word about our friends at OpSource Staffing, which has 5 different locations. They are in Greenville, Spartanburg, Gaffney, and Charleston, and in Arden, North Carolina. They provide contractors to companies in the manufacturing industry, from welders and pipe fitters all the way down to production and inventory control and industrial labor and a whole bunch of stuff in between. An independent, faith-based, privately held staffing, recruiting, and workforce management company that began in 2007 with a mission to serve and connect great people to great companies. With OpSource, it's all about the relationship and not the transaction. They believe that by building relationships, they will become an integral part of your overall staffing experience. Call today to find out more about how they can help you streamline your contract workforce for the better. OpSource Staffing Incorporated, 866-870-8133. That's toll free, 866-870-8133. Or just go to the website, opsourcestaffing.com. All right, tonight he will be jamming with us in the pregame, and he will be hanging out with Tom Van Hoy at halftime, and he will be doing all the things that a sports information director does in game. He is Jordan Caskey of the sports information department here at Furman with the Furman basketball team already in Greensboro. Tom and I are heading there after the show, and big game in the league tonight. Jordan Caskey, as Furman has a chance to move a half game ahead of Greensboro and stay just 2 games behind ETSU with a win this evening.
No doubt about it. This is a tough place to play, and a team that's been playing extremely well. They're 10-1 at home this year, and it'll be a big test for the Paladins tonight.
You know, the intriguing thing about the way that Greensboro is playing is what they're doing defensively, which really is, if you look back over the last handful of years, out of character for them. But and going off the top of my head, I think they're allowing somewhere around 61, 62 points a game or something like that. It's just been incredible how they've kind of turned the corner defensively, at least so far this season.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that they're sort of a different team than they've been in the past. Before they've had so many scoring options, and sort of they haven't been a run and gun team, but they've been a team that you wouldn't have labeled a defensive team. And certainly this year, I think it's 61.8 points per game that they're allowing, and that's really been their calling card, along with Francis Alonso, who's right there with Fletcher McGee at the top of the league as far as shooters go, and they really leaned on that defense. They've got good size in the paint, so they can crash the boards. They can alter shots in the paint. They're kind of a scary team when it comes to that, and they've sort of found a new identity this year in Greensboro.
That's not easy to do, quite honestly.
No.
And anytime you're talking about changing the style of play and getting kids to buy in, especially on the defensive end of the floor, that usually is a work in progress over the course of multiple seasons. Normally, and quite honestly, you have to a lot of times recruit players with that kind of mindset. It's not something you normally see where the switch gets flipped from one year to the next with basically the same cast of characters, and to see them playing that much better defense.
Right, and luckily for Greensboro, they're blessed with a lot of length, and they've always had a point guard that seems to be a good leader for them. And Demetrius Troy's doing a good job at the guard spot this year. Alonzo gives them length on the perimeter. They've got James Dickey and Smith, and so there's a lot of length there to help defend. And Coach Wes Miller's kind of got these guys bought in on defending, and they're doing a nice job. And they're on a little bit of a winning streak right now. I think a 3-game streak since their loss to ETSU, who we've seen, and I think everyone would agree right now is probably the best team in the league. And they're playing great basketball, and it's a really big test when you come into Greensboro, as it is in any road game in the Southern Conference.
Yeah, and you have to think that maybe the success they had last year, winning the conference regular season, or tying for the regular season, winning the tournament, going to the NCAAs, that had to help, I guess, the light bulb come on, because you had to play a little bit of defense to be able to do that.
Well, I think maybe the turning point for them last year was their win at Furman late in the year. Furman was really, pushing to try to clinch an outright regular season title last year, and Greensboro came in to Greenville and got a 73-52 win that helped them win a share of the title. And that they got to play some postseason ball as well. And I think these guys have gained some confidence from that extra experience that they had. And they've got a good group back this year. And it's definitely a group that seems very coachable. And that's kind of gotten them to this point where they're 14-5, and they're playing with only one league loss so far this year. And this is sort of the marquee matchup of the night in the Southern Conference.
Paladins go in coming off of the win over Samford, a game they played without Devin Sibley, and talking with Tyler Murray, who sat in for Bob Ritchie on his show on Monday night. At Monday's practice, Devin was a full go, and that would obviously lead one to believe that he'll be back in the lineup this evening.
Yeah, I don't see anything really that would keep Devin out. I think his finger is probably pretty sore, but he's just going to tape that up and go. I think he proved in practice that he's a full go, and he wants to get back in there. We talked about him gaining some perspective, and I think the perspective he gained is he wants to be on the court, and he wants to get back out there and help his teammates right now. So I think he'll be 100% ready to go tonight, and we'll need him because when you go on the road in the conference, you need someone who is capable of carrying you for a period. If you're in a little lull or you're struggling to score, you got to have that person who could take over for a short stretch and really provide a lot of points. And Devin kind of gives Furman that instant offense when they need it most.
Well, the thing that made him the Southern Conference Player of the Year, though, a year ago, was his perimeter defense, and that obviously is going to come into play tonight as well. But in talking with Tyler on Monday night, Devin Sibley's biggest critic is Devin Sibley, and the thought is, the hope is that maybe sitting out that game against Samford on Saturday will kind of free him up mentally a little bit, get him out of his own head, and get him back to just, as they say, don't think and just play. Let it do what you're supposed to do. Let your instincts take over and be the player that we know that he can be.
Yeah, his ability to defend on the perimeter will be big because, I would expect we'll see Daniel Fowler guarding Francis Alonso some, but Sibley will probably get his chance as well, and that's one of those guys, as we said, a lot like Fletcher McGee. You've got to literally have a hand in his face all night long just to try to keep him from having one of those 20-plus point games. And we'll need that defense. And, Devin's had a rough run of it at times where, as Scott Keeler pointed out, it seems like he gets into the game, and in the first minute and a half, he picks up an offensive foul, and it seems like it may get in his head a little bit. It may help him in the long run to have that game to sit and to kind of collect his thoughts and get out of his own head, as you said, and be able to produce like he's capable of.
Yeah, I kind of went on a little mini soapbox on Bob's show on Monday, and I would not let Tyler comment because obviously the coaches can't comment on officiating from that standpoint. But Scott has been kind of pointing out, and he and I have had some running conversations sitting beside each other on press row, that it's amazing that you don't have to worry apparently about, in this league, the star players getting protection or getting the benefit of the doubt on calls, because Devin Sibley surely has not had that benefit of the doubt this season. It's been really remarkable to watch how some of the calls, the 50-50 calls, the vast majority of them seem to have gone against him.
Yeah, and that especially seems to be true early in the ball game, and that's been a point of frustration. And at the same time, it's been one of those things I think where in practice, coaches, as coaches tend to do, have said, hey, we can't worry about how it's officiated or what happens. We've got to take whatever happens and bounce back and be ready for next play, as Bob always says. It's all about the next play. Get your head in the game and don't let it beat you twice, and that'll be key. And hopefully the breaks will even out at some point as they usually do, and we'll have a few things go our way, and maybe at a crucial time that helps us pull off a big road win.
So, from your standpoint, what's 2 or 3 keys for the Paladins tonight?
I think they've got to rebound well tonight. We saw them do a good job on the glass against Sanford on Saturday with 11 offensive rebounds that turned into 14 second chance points, and they'll need to do that tonight, because with Dickey and Smith and Jordy Kuiper, Greensboro can throw a lot of size at you, size and thickness that Furman usually is not going to have on the court at one time. And so the Paladins will have to do a good job as a team rebounding tonight. I think that'll be crucial. And then, like I said, you want to guard Alonzo. He's going to get his, but you want to make sure that he doesn't go off on you, try to make someone else beat you. And, I think if they can do those two things and continue to have the ball movement on offense that we saw on Saturday, it was just great ball movement. I believe Tyler Murray said we set a season high for passes.
Yeah.
That I think that's a real key to our offense and how we operate. If you can rebound, keep the ball moving on offense, and just make sure you keep Alonzo in check, then you give yourself a chance to win away from home.
All right, Jordan, all you have to do now is do it all over again on Jamming with Jordan in the pregame show. How about that?
No problem. We'll take care of that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you checking in with us from up in Greensboro. Tom and I will see you there tonight.
Safe travels, Dan.
All right, that is Jordan Caskey. A preview, if you will, not only of the game, but of Jamming with Jordan. As we get set to wrap it up, first I have to tell you about Ridge Media, LLC, located here in Greenville, a one-stop shop based in Greenville. They do logo, print, and website design, as well as search engine optimization and marketing. And their clients range from startups to Fortune 500 companies. Locally owned marketing firm with offices in Greenville and Charleston. To schedule a free consultation, call them today at 864-354-6175, 864-354-6175. That is Ridge Media. And tell Kenny that you heard about him right here on the show. That's going to do it for us. Thank you for your kind attention. If all goes well, we'll be back with you tomorrow, even after the late night tonight up in Greensboro. 6:30 airtime, 7 p.m. is the tip time for Furman and UNCG as the Paladins try and stay within 2 games of ETSU, who's at the top of the standings. Big game tonight, but a game that Furman won on this floor in Greensboro last year at the Coliseum. We'll see you tonight. Hope that you'll tune in. If you watch the ESPN3 video, and feel free to do so, turn the sound down, tune Tom and I in, and we will keep you hopefully informed and entertained throughout the broadcast. Until then, and until tomorrow morning, I'm Dan Scott. Thank you again for joining us. God bless you, and so long, everybody.